Now, I've talked a few times on the channel about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and previously my thoughts largely boiled down to that I thought Nintendo EDP showcased a lot of creativity with this entry. There were a lot of fun elements, however, some of the shortcomings of the game were a bit difficult for me to overcome. For example, whenever the game first released, I was disappointed by the boss battles. I found the game to be too easy, among some other more minor nitpicks as well. So with that being said, recently I sat down and replayed this game, and I thought it would be fun to kind of take another look in more of a retrospect setting and see how maybe this game has aged for better or for worse since the past year and a half that it's been on the market. Just to quickly recap some of the context of this game for anyone unfamiliar, the Mario series, especially the 2D Mario series, had kind of been in a very derivative state upon the release of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. After a long absence of an original 2D Mario game, Nintendo finally struck back with New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, which then led to multiple sequels to New Super Mario Bros., which for the most part didn't really do anything to evolve the series. Yeah, we may have a new power-up here and there, but for the most part it kind of had the same set of world themes, the same soundtrack, the same art style. For the most part, it was basically the same game for the most part with new levels on a new system. So essentially it had been a whole decade since we had seen a new 2D Mario game, and even then a lot of people had felt somewhat disappointed with the output that Nintendo had been giving us. So this is where the strengths of Wonder can really be seen, and a lot of these strengths I acknowledged whenever I originally was covering this game. Things like the absolutely gorgeous art style, the music sounding completely new for the series. We had brand new level themes, we had new characters, new enemies, new power-ups, everything felt like a breath of fresh air. Even little things like the story being brand new, because even though Mario has never been a story-driven franchise, just the fact that we're not saving Peach this time around and we're not even playing in the Mushroom Kingdom is, a great showcase of how this is just completely new for the series. There were absolutely immeasurable amounts of ideas generated by Nintendo EPD when conceiving this brand new game, a lot of which really had to be justified and figured out how they would all fit together in one cohesive experience, because especially with how wacky they were, they just would not fit very well in the very monotonous structure that we had been accustomed to up to this point. That's also the beauty of one of the other main strengths that I originally saw with this game, that being the Wonder Flower. Every level would have you finding one of these Wonder Flowers to completely warp it on its head. Many times there would be a certain mechanic with the level that would directly be incorporated into whatever the Wonder effect is for it. The introduction of badges also worked to spice up the gameplay, as many of them would either work to aid the player or maybe work as a handicap, making it so it kind of creates a more difficult experience. These are all things that I think I always kind of saw as strengths of this game. However, there were also glaring weaknesses in my eyes. One of the biggest ones being that I found the game to be a bit too easy. And thankfully, this is something that I think upon replaying the game, I've kind of shifted my perspective on. Not necessarily that I think the game is harder than I originally thought it was, but I don't really see it as a weakness anymore. And this is especially funny because a few months ago I literally made a video talking about why certain games are too easy, and Wonder was my main example of a game that didn't do a good job at being too easy. But what can I say, my mind has been changed. I think that before I was kind of failing to realize the importance of accessibility in modern games. Not that I thought that accessibility was inherently a bad thing, but just that I was kind of forgetting its importance whenever I was originally taking a look at, a game like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Because while there's nothing wrong with valuing difficulty in games, it definitely is something that I love whenever it comes to 2D platformers, and is a major reason why games like the Donkey Kong Country games, for example, have appealed so much to me. But there is also a beauty in being a game that is designed in a way so anyone, regardless of age, experience, whatever have you, is able to enjoy it the same way that a veteran of the series can. And there are definitely been times where I've played the game with friends and they've struggled at certain parts, so I don't think that the game is inherently too easy. I think that I've just played a lot of Mario over my life, so I'm probably just, used to the way 2D Mario works. And at the end of the day, let's be honest, 2D Mario isn't really meant at its core to to be an aggressively difficult and punishing experience. That definitely isn't to say that if a Mario game is hard then it can't be good. However, what I'm trying to get at here is that what makes Mario games good at their core, in my opinion, is not whether or not they're difficult, and that's just something that before I kind of overlooked. But that was not my only critique originally with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, so how about something like the boss battles? Well, unfortunately, my mind hasn't really altered that much about these. But then again, another kind of key point that I don't think I really considered before is that good 2D Mario boss fights are kind of few and far between anyway. I do still think it is kind of weird that World 3 and World 5 just don't have a boss fight at the end of them. It's kind of jarring, and that's something I originally mentioned in my first review of this game, and my mind has kind of stayed stagnant on. But other than that, I don't see the lack of quality boss fights as big of a deal. The main point of contention I still do have with this game is the pacing. I do think that the pacing of this game is rather bad. If it isn't your first time playing this game, it does kind of take a good while for the flow of it to get up and running. And although I do really appreciate the overhauled world map experience with how you're actually running in a much more three-dimensional layout and you're able to kind of go through each level in whatever order you want to play them in, I do kind of miss the way the older games worked with how you just go to the next level, click A, and you're in it. I don't think that that's a major flaw of this game. I definitely had more fun on my second playthrough overall than my first one, mainly because I think I was going into it with a more nuanced mindset. And I also do think that the new design of the world map is overall a better change than what it was before. I just think that if the levels flowed from one another a bit quicker, then I would have had a more smooth experience overall. That's just my opinion overall though, and this is a game that over time I've grown to appreciate a bit more. I would say before I liked the game overall, and I definitely acknowledge its importance within the series as being a breath of fresh air and revitalization of the formula. However, up until now, I did a bad job of kind of looking at it from a more, dynamic point of view. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe, as that is the best way to support the channel, and I'm going to be doing lots of more videos in a similar vein to this one. If you have any thoughts about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, feel free to let me know in the comments, whether it's things that you love about the game, hate about what I had to say about the game. Feel free to let me know. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, peace out.